Anthony Grassi here for D3 Ticker and Small College Conversations. Happy to sit down with CUNYAC Commissioner and VP of Sports Consulting for Mammoth, Kurt Patberg. Kurt, thank you for joining me today.
It's fun to be here, and I'm really excited about sharing some of the things that we're trying to accomplish here. I look forward to our time together.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time. You guys are obviously in a very unique circumstance. You're coming up on, over a year ago, you guys won the RFP to manage the conference on the Division III conference on a 3-year basis. You started as the commissioner of that league this past January. Why? We'll start big picture. Why was this the right move for Mammoth to make?
Well, we've done this before. Technically I've been with Mammoth for almost 3 years. Mm-hmm. But my previous consulting that we did before Mammoth acquired athletic staffing consultants, we did some other work with setting up conferences. I think it's my background with as a former conference commissioner, along with my now 15 years of consulting, where I guess I get called upon to do a lot of conference work because I'm a former commissioner. So, we've done this before. This one's unique. We're going to get into some of the details. This one's clearly unique. They're all a little bit unique, but I think we're positioned to understand how to do these projects. And this is going to be a fun one. I mean, I feel like this is going to be a fun one. We're already into it, but yet we still have a long way to go.
I'm curious at the outset when you guys decided to submit a bid for this, what was the value proposition that you pitched to the board of trustees?
Our experience, but at first, I'll be honest. At first, when I started in on this process, I just thought they wanted somebody to run the conference for 3 years. And then the more I got to know what they really wanted here, I realized that they wanted somebody to take them somewhere. They wanted to be something other than the 8 Division III public institutions in the city of New York. They wanted to be in a new conference with other members. And when I and we, meaning Mammoth, heard that they wanted to go somewhere and not just have us run the conference, that really excited me and excited us. And that's when we went full bore in trying to win the RFP so we could manage a unique league for the next 3 years and take them into a new time. It's kind of like the word has been used, rebirth of the conference. New name. We are going to be incorporated outside of CUNY. We are going to have a 501c3 status, whole branding with members that aren't just in the CUNY anymore. And I think as long as we would have stayed, which we currently are, the name CUNYAC, it's hard for people to want to join a league that they think is still just being run by the CUNY and it has such a CUNY influence. We are going to be our own new league with new members that will always have a unique tie to the CUNY because most of our members will be CUNY members. But it's a great unique project.
So can you walk us through what, as you sit here right now, what some of the timing for some of this is? Obviously, one of the pieces of that is an addition of new members, which you have NJCU set to join as a full member in 27-28. What does the kind of path look like from here to there?
Well, we have set a date, a very tentative date, but a date of July 1st, 2027 as a what should I say, objective date for having a new conference set up. Can we alter from that a little bit before or after? We can, but that seems like a reasonable time frame to where over the course of the next 2 academic years, we find or we attract 2 or 3 new members that want to join this conference of 8 CUNY schools and New Jersey City University. I think the New Jersey City University announcement was so big for us because now people are saying, wow, they're not just really talking about expanding, they've done it. And I think it's opened the door to some other discussions. I do think we always want to stay who we are. We want to be focused on the great city of New York and the 5 boroughs that most of our schools exist in. That'll always be an influence of ours. It needs to be, and it's what makes us special and unique.
Is there a limit to the footprint that you guys are comfortable with? Obviously, there's a ton of schools in and around New York City, but is there a limit to how far you are comfortable branching out?
It's $1 million question. I mean, in the perfect world, we would stay close-knit and in the 5 boroughs of New York City. May not work out like that. And well, New Jersey City is outside the 5 boroughs, but yet they have such a New York City influence that the 5 boroughs of New York City still apply to them. Very, very much so. It's what attracted them is being able to have exposure and operate in New York City. But listen, we don't all know how this plays out. We may need to expand a little bit outside the 5 boroughs, but in the perfect world, that'd be a great situation. That's the rest of the story to be told a little bit. And to be honest with you, one of the biggest challenges that people in my role or our role as a staff running the conference is who's the right fit for them and for us moving forward. It's I don't want to get into too much detail on a call like this, but that's way premature. But we have something pretty unique and special to offer, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out in the next couple of years.
Without giving away any trade secrets, obviously, what is the, I guess, top line pitch to a potential new member?
Fit, travel, uniqueness, be a part of what makes us unique and hopefully makes that school unique, a tie to New York City. I think all that would be a fit for us. You know, there's a lot of other things that need to come into play when you start talking about fit. And we could spend 3 hours on this call just talking about fit, but we will know it and they'll know it when we meet that fit clause.
Is there, we've heard some, I don't know if rumblings or consternation or what the right maybe word is, but the challenge that people that sit in the commissioner chair at the small college levels as it relates to membership is that there seems to be this circular nature of you pick off one from them and they pick off somebody from somebody else and you keep going kind of around the circle until somebody's either left holding their hands up like this or they pick somebody from, they take somebody from Division I that wants to move down and they take somebody from the NAI. Do you have a concern in that perspective? Obviously, you have a broader perspective given your consulting background, given that you've been at pretty much all levels of small college athletics as a commissioner. Do you have a concern about the maybe broader impact of trying to continue to expand that may have on other small college leagues?
There's no question. And I really appreciate you thinking like that because we have to be very careful on how we walk down this path. Almost to the stage where we hope people contact us and see a unique fit with us because they see some broadcasts like this, Anthony, where they realize, wow, that would be a nice setup for our institution to be a part of that league. Because you're right. You don't want to get into you got to think is not just what's best for your conference, but also what's best for Division III. And if you start getting into, competitive battles with people over membership, that's not healthy for any of us. So, strategically, that question right there is probably one of the most difficult ones that our staff in our league will have to work with, is that we don't want to upset the apple cart, so to speak, and we want to be professional. But if there's some people that really belong in this new league, whatever that name ends up being, I would hate to think that we can't invite those people in. But got to be very careful and work within the system and be very professional in how you go about your actions.
Does 12 seem to be the ideal number for membership? Obviously, there's give and take, there's nuance there, but given what you stated earlier, the kind of idea of 12 teams being, as I have these conversations with commissioners, be a fun, easy number.
I don't know there's a perfect number. I think I think we know we need to be bigger than 9. I don't know that we've talked about a perfect number. A lot of it depends on where this takes us. I will say this: let's not be naive here. If a proposal continues to be discussed and takes any seriousness to it at the convention this year, where somebody is proposing 2 automatic qualifiers for 12 members or for 12 schools that sponsor that sport, that will impact Division III. I'm sure you're going to have other podcasts where you're talking to people about that piece, because you want to talk about something that would upset the apple cart. Those are going to be all kinds of changes in Division III if that passes. And I'm not so sure I'm heavily in favor of all that. I'm not so sure that's healthy when you look at the big picture of Division III. I think there's a lot of robust discussions that are going to occur in the next 3 to 4 months about Division III, because I think that piece of legislation has kind of stimulated a lot of discussions. But if that passes, I think the number gets to 12, doesn't it?
What is your pushback on that proposal? I'm just curious. I haven't heard anybody publicly yet. Obviously, there's people that have sponsored it to come forward, so obviously they feel positively about it, and we've heard discussions about it previously from other commissioners across Division III. But I'm curious, why you think that would upset the apple cart so much, so to speak? Because
it would. There aren't unlimited spaces for people to be in the playoffs. In other words, the NCAA has a certain allotment. If they don't increase that, if conferences that are in the middle or below middle competitively are offered a second automatic qualifier, that means schools could get into the championships that take spots from really good, what I would consider legitimate people to win national championships may not have a chance to compete for those because there's less at-large opportunities. Common sense will tell you that. Do I think it would be healthy when I think of what's best for Division III? Do I think it's healthy that the 13th or the 11th, 12th, 13th best women's volleyball program can't get into the tournament because a lower conference got a second automatic qualifier? If I look at it not from a CUNY perspective or CUNYAC perspective, but I look at it from what's best for Division III, that's tough to make that argument. And I think that's the argument that you're going to hear discussed and debated in the next 3 months. And as we enter the time at the NCAA convention. Now, that's just Kurt Patberg's views. That's Kurt Patberg's views as I'm in an interesting seat because I'm the acting commissioner of the CUNYAC. I am a consultant that works with various conferences around the country. I'm also the husband of a Division III coach and the father of a Division III coach. So I feel like my perspective is about as broad as you can get. And I'm not so sure I think this is healthy. But we'll see how it plays out. Listen, it's whatever's best for Division III. That's why we have these. We do what we do. It's why we have a democratic vote. It's why we have robust discussions. And at the end, we get some really good leadership across the country in commissioner roles and within the NCAA. And the right thing will happen here. some of these discussions might be good for us right now in Division III.
Given your broad perspective, I'm curious if you have a feeling one way or the other about the idea of leagues merging together. If obviously that proposal comes to fruition, that seems to be a potential, something that could potentially happen, where you would see maybe two leagues that are on the smaller side merge together so they can, that eliminates some of the overhead from a conference perspective, and you salvage basically that second bid that you would lose should you merge together. Do you think that's a potential consequence, and would that be a good potential consequence for the betterment of Division III should that come to pass?
Well, let me say it like this, and I'm going to be really frank. I would far rather see merged conferences than I would see a conference go take 3 or 4 schools out of a conference of 7 or 8 and leave the other 3 or 4 without a home. I mean, common sense will tell us we got to be careful here. And I think where you're heading with your question, you said it from a positive with regard to merging conferences. Yes, if it happened like that, but it may not be that simple to happen like that. And what could happen to some of the conferences? What you've asked right there is a major topic with Division III we'll discuss, and I probably need to be careful I don't get too far down the road in having this not be about the CUNYAC and be too much about a piece of proposal that's going to be at the convention. But what you ask is dead on. It's going to be interesting, and we'll figure it out. Division III will figure it out.
Yeah, we've gone way down the rabbit hole. Certainly. Yep. So to get back to what we originally sat down to talk about.
No question.
We mentioned it before. You have probably more commissioner experience than almost anybody around the country from a diversified standpoint. You've led Division II leagues, Division III leagues, NAI leagues. What is, I guess, both sides of this, what is so unique about your current role that is so different than the previous ones? And what are some similarities that you can pull from your past experiences that are a benefit for the league now?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, first of all, an excuse for having so many different jobs is I married a real successful coach, and I've been real supportive of her career, and we've had to move to different locations, and I've been really proud of that. But having said that, they're all running a conference is running a conference. You still have to manage championships. You still have to manage a budget. You still have to lead a group of institutions. There are concepts about being a commissioner that are 80 to 90% the same, regardless of NAIA Division III or Division II. Now, we all know what the differences are. They are in philosophy but I think there's far more similarities. And when I do commissioner searches in my role as vice president of Mammoth, I highly encourage the leadership that's looking for a commissioner to look at how they've led more so than were they an NAIA commissioner, were they a Division III commissioner, were they a Division II commissioner? Because I think that's very transferable. Now, having said that, the CUNYAC is one of the most unique leagues that I've ever been associated with as a consultant or as a commissioner. And what I mean by that is you've got very large, in some cases, in a lot of cases, large public, mostly commuter institutions with limited to no dorms or residential capabilities that serve a unique type of student. A lot of first gen, very diverse, almost exclusively commuter, and in some cases come from low household incomes. And but boy, are they committed to playing sports. Some of them, some of these schools, some of these student athletes work other jobs. They take the subway into their institutions. They compete at schools that sometimes have limited facilities because they're in a major metropolitan area where land is very expensive. It's just such a unique conference. And when I'm retired and I'm fishing for my redfish in my tidal creek, I am going to look back at this opportunity and I'm going to think, gosh, was I blessed? Some of the student athletes we work with and get to meet, it's really special how committed they are to wanting to play intercollegiate athletics.
I'm curious how you are thinking about measuring success in your role as the commissioner, and what kind of checkpoints or KPIs you have working toward the ultimate goal of setting up this league for future success.
Well, I think there's the obvious that we have to do, which is we have to get incorporated. We have to come up with a name. We have to think about our future branding of the new conference. But then I think we've already hit on one of the biggest challenges, and how I think anybody in our role would be judged is, or evaluated, I should say, would be membership. Having other schools see our vision and see that they might belong in this conference. And then I think finances. What can we do as a conference office to minimize the impact this new self-incorporated 501c3, how the less financial impact it can have on these member institutions, the best. Championships, we already do a really nice job with championships. I think that's more of a continuation. What we do is pretty special. And some of the funding and some of the resources we spend to make sure we have a really good student athlete experience, that hopefully won't change, because we already do a good job there. So I think those are our measuring sticks. Membership's a key. We have some unique other challenges that if we could solve down the road, but let's stick with membership, incorporation, and branding, because I think those are three awful important ones.
On membership specifically, I'm curious, because obviously you guys have 8 strong members that have been tied together in a unique way.
Yeah.
Was there a challenge when you started? Obviously, you guys won the contract. You stepped in as commissioner. In that beginning period, was there a challenge in maybe pitching your vision or getting everybody on the same page to know to get them where they ultimately want to go?
Well, not really, because a lot of that was already discussed in advance of the RFP and how this conference was going to be run over the next three years. So I tell you what has been a really big impact for us is the whole New Jersey City opportunity. They were going through some changes at their institution. They got acquired by Kane University in New Jersey. Having them become available even ahead of schedule for us, I think is going to open the door down the road for other. We're ahead of schedule on the membership piece a little bit. We didn't think we would have a member committed this soon, but I think it's been really good for us, because it shows that we are doing what we have intended to try to do here.
As you work towards some of those finance pieces, obviously there's a ton that you could probably dive into. We could spend 30, 60 minutes on just that. Are there revenue streams that are top of mind that you are thinking of? And the one probably sticks out the most, given what has happened over the last year or two within small college athletics, is streaming becoming that much more prevalent of a potential revenue source, as we've seen Huddle step in at certain small college conferences. We've seen Flow Sports make a really big push. Have you guys, broadly, are there specific new revenue streams that you are thinking about, and is streaming a part of that? Obviously, you don't have to get ahead of. I don't want to front run a conversation that you're having on that front.
Yeah, we've had some discussions internally with our staff about the whole streaming piece, and yes, we've made contact with some of those those vendors that you've just mentioned. However, our athletic directors haven't sat down and talked about that a lot because we're not ready for that. I think that comes after we know where our membership goes and we get closer to a new conference. I think some obvious uniquenesses that we have from a corporate support and sponsorship perspective is the number of students that we represent. Now, sure, if you just take our student athlete population, it's small. We don't sponsor football. We're public institutions, so that a lot of these schools aren't pushing the envelope on roster sizes. We're not carrying 50 on our men's soccer teams. So our student athlete base is relatively small. But you start looking at these member institutions and how many students go to these schools and how many alums how many people out there have graduated from a CUNY institution. The impact of CUNY in the CUNY and now New Jersey City and the amount of alums and students that we serve, that's unique that most conference commissioners do not have at their disposal. And yeah, there'll be a day that we're going to need some support from our college presidents to say, hey, what do you think about this opportunity with this potential corporate partner to do this, this, and this? And we have some unique opportunity there.
Absolutely. So I'll get you out of here, Kurt, on these last two bigger topics of the model that you guys have implemented right now with the CUNYAC. Do you think, obviously excluding maybe the uniquenesses of it, do you think this is a replicable model for you or a consultant to step in to help get a conference through some interim period to ultimately get them where they want to go?
Yes, if the person running it has a background in conference operations. And yes, I don't think that this type of relationship is in the best interest long term of a conference, but I think it can clearly be on a short term for a conference. And I'm biased because I've seen it work. What we did with the Collegiate Conference of the South, when those two conferences decided it would be in their best interest to split primarily because of geographics. I helped put the Collegiate Conference of the South together. So yes, but when it's the right time to hand it off. And it was obvious what the right time to hand it. When I did the Collegiate Conference of the South conference and we put that one together, I thought my tenure, I can say because it was only me. It was, we didn't have a staff when we first started. Now we have a staff running, a really good quality staff running the CUNYAC. But when I was running the Collegiate Conference of the South, the leadership there asked me to stay on a little longer. And I agreed with that assessment. We weren't quite ready to do the handoff. When it's right. So Anthony, yes, I do think there are situations that conferences will get into that a consultant and hiring a consulting firm, if they understand conference operations, would be healthy. I would think there's some that wouldn't be, and I would be the first to tell them, hey, that's not a situation that would be conducive for a consultant to come in on. But yes, clearly this one, I commend whoever sat down and thought about where the CUNYAC was, where they needed to get, and hiring out an outside firm. I think it made sense in this case. But it will also be quite obvious when it's time to hand this off to a new staff to run this new conference.
My last question is, we've talked a bunch about what the goal, the vision for the CUNYAC is, when it ultimately is time to hand this off to a new staff. What is your priority or priorities over the next 6-12 months to help get you to that point?
Naming, continued membership discussions, and and continued education to the current membership at all levels, presidents, ADRs, athletic directors, sports information directors, to clearly articulate our vision on where we're trying to get to and timelines and where we need to have a little bit of flexibility. We're on pace right now. It's going well. But we don't even know who we're going to be yet. I mean, it's kind of exciting to sit here and think, okay, current membership, let's decide what are we going to call ourselves moving forward? You know, how are we going to brand and logo? We have some really unique opportunities coming up that not everybody has. We're rebirthing our conference, and we as Mammoth and our staff are blessed to be a part of this.
Well, Kurt, I appreciate you taking the time. We look forward to seeing the rebirth of the CUNYAC soon.
Thank you very much, Anthony. Take care.